Welcome to the first ever Think Tank brought to you by heretostay.tv. My name is Haussman and we're coming to you directly from the top of the Beekman Tower Hotel in New York City. I'm very excited to be talking to you today about extended stay, homes, and the service department business. And I have with us a great panel of industry innovators and movers and shakers. I have with me today, directly to my side, Mr. Piers Brown with Service Apartment News. Next up, we have MJ Paschall, and she is SVP with AKA Hotel Residences. Then next we have Deanna Ting, Hospitality Editor with Skift. I'd love to introduce you to Jame Alderman. He's the EVP, Chief Asset Manager with Extended Stay Americas. Then we have Adrian Kurre. He's the Global Head with Home2 Suites and Homewood Suites by Hilton. I'd like to introduce everybody to Julie Sickel. She is the Editor with Business Travel News. And lastly, I'd like to introduce you to Sean Worker. He's the CEO and President of BridgeStreet Global Hospitality. Jim, I'm going to start with you, mostly because I'm looking in your direction. Extended stay, it's a great world, a great industry. You just came over to here from a traditional hotel company. Extended Stay America is going to be franchising for the first ever time. What makes this sector exciting for a guy like you?
The ability to really take growth to the next level. Extended Stay opened its last hotel 10 years ago. Average age is about 15 years old for the entire state, and so the ability to really shepherd that growth into the next phase and come up with a new prototype. Our buildings are fairly old, and as much as we renovate them, they don't really represent what is the forefront of today in extended stay lodging, and we're kind of chasing the big boys when it comes to, we're the largest in the segment with 629. We don't have the biggest budgets for R&D like my friend Adrian at the other end. So we look to what they do and say we aspire. When we look at Home2 or Homewood or even with Marriott with TPS, we look at their products and we say, okay, that's something to set our sights on and to try to move our product more in that direction.
Right. That's fascinating to me that you're moving in that general direction. One of the things I think your company's done so well is the marketing and advertising. Very clever, cheeky ads that stick with me. I see a lot of advertising sameness in this business, and it's nice to see that you're doing differently. Deanna, Jim, does he have a smart strategy there?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, extended stay, it's such a robust market that's really open for a lot of opportunity and growth. And yeah, I think it's a good strategy that they're pursuing. Great.
MJ, tell us a little bit about what you're doing at AKA and how you're approaching this new era, because you've been in the business for a while, but it seems suddenly everything's about to pop.
I'd say that what we've tried to do with AKA is carve out that luxury category. In the extended stay, we've added the word luxury in front of extended stay, lodging and accommodations. So our business model is that we buy condominium, vertical villages I'd call them, in urban settings, and we set ourselves up for these short, medium, and long stay, well-heeled executives, high net worth individuals. So our marketing strategy is slightly different, not necessarily a mass marketing strategy. We're not going to get the group, we're going to get the project lead, the CEOs, so on. So I feel that we have a very specific kind of a niche message in the extended stay family.
Right. Yeah. Now Piers, he's got the number for this entire industry. You have a publication focused specifically on extended stay, homes, serviced apartments. How have things changed since you started with that publication?
I think it's the speed of change.
Yeah.
And the big thing I'm hearing around the table is relevancy, and the innovation within the service department sector in particular is, I suppose, catalyzed by everybody's commitment to the space. And we've seen new branch launches, we've seen the first service department OTA.
Right.
There's lots of deals being announced at the moment, and the signs are really healthy.
Yeah, I think so too. And Sean, I turn to you. He's just mentioned the first ever OTA in this sector. Happens to be BridgeStreet.com. Why do you think now is the time for something like that?
It's just interesting listening to everybody as we accelerate. And so the acceleration in the last maybe 4 years, Jim and I were just talking about the edges. Right. Luxury at one end, hyper economy at the other. And the customer is demanding it. So this is a travel manager-led initiative to connect the dots between us, say here's an offering, because we got to make it easy to book, and we don't make it easy to book. Some do. The hotel teams have done a very good job over the years to do that. But we got to make it accessible and now, or else we're going to be irrelevant.
Yeah, it's amazing now. You could go on to BridgeStreet.com and you could just make a reservation at any of these types of properties that are out there.
Mostly, as we'll probably be at. It'll take us about 18 months to be critical mass, but we'll probably add about 40,000 available units that we're on pace to between now and the end of the year and early Q1 18. So it really democratizes the conversation without, and having an OTA for the space rather than generic. And as we've added a sales team to really generate unique demand and connect with that corporate buyer in their language, their way, as opposed to trying to shove it into, you will conform. That's not the conversation.
No, it's not. And Julie, you know what the conversation is with these travel managers over there, right? They need to be able to find that middle ground to appeal to both their corporate customers and to be able to get rooms booked easily and conveniently. How are you seeing the market changing from your world at Business Travel News?
Absolutely. So, we, in the past couple of years, have just seen travel programs embrace extended stay, embrace corporate service departments in a way that they haven't before. And some of these companies are finding that their corporation already had millions of dollars to spend with service department providers, but it was through HR, through relocation, through project work. And so I think it's kind of a combination of things, of the drive in this industry, the drive in the corporate travel industry to pursue these products based on traveler taste, and sort of a cross-functional approach that is happening at a lot of these companies. So it's an exciting time, and it's all kind of coming together.
It sure is, and I know you're excited, Adrian. You came over from the world of traditional stay to extended stay a little over a year ago at this point. So what appeals to you about the extended stay sector?
Well, the biggest thing is, and I used to say this when I was in the transient side of it, was if I was going to take my own money today and I was going to build a hotel, I would build an extended stay hotel, and it's all about the metrics. It is about your ability to drive revenue, its ability to cover shoulder nights, and it's how much of that money falls down to the bottom line. I have this fun thing that I do before every presentation I do on extended stay, and I'll have a group of owners sitting in front of me, and the first question I'll ask them is, why do you build a hotel? And there's usually silence in the room, and everybody's really nervous to give the answer to it. And I say, you build a hotel to make money, right? And that's what you want to do. And your opportunity to make money with extended stay hotels is just phenomenal. So you're not, the efficiencies that you drive through shoulder nights and weekends, and then housekeeping and the cost of servicing and the amount of money that drops to the bottom line in an extended stay hotel is awesome. So it is so much fun to be a part of this side of the business now. It's just, it's incredible.
Yeah, it really is. And I hate to travel all the way back over to Jim, but you're the other hotel extended guy on the panel. So to me, what I find interesting with what Adrian was just saying is all that money falling to the bottom line. The fundamentals of putting it together. You don't need as much staff to operate. Is that kind of the way you look at it?
Absolutely. When I got over to Extended Stay America, and it was a very long process to come on board and go through the search and the studying and the relevancy of the metrics as I learned more and more about them. Glenn and Adrian's exactly right. When I took a look at this, I got over there and said, I don't know why I would ever build another thing. If I'm going to put my own personal money into this industry, it's going into this segment. Unless you just find, there's always the incredible deal. When the market dives, you find a building and you have a great way to make that a boutique hotel at 60 cents on the dollar. Right. That it would have to be 60 cents on the dollar to be as good as the type of metrics that you run in this side of the business. It is the labor model. And like I said, the ability to really, you can control your occupancy. It just depends on you can really decide on how you want to run. And it's if we feel like turning on the switch and filling up with OTA business, we can do that. Yeah. If we feel like staying more long term, we can do that. And with an average length of stay it's significantly long, and cleaning the rooms once a week because the people really don't want you in there much more than that because they're living there. The metrics and the real estate value that's driven from these metrics, you can see why everywhere you go there's a home 2 under construction. Right.
Thanks for plugging in.
Well, it was one of the fun things. My first week coming over, and
your fun thing was going after ESA.
My first week coming over, I went to Salt Lake City, which is ground
And you
zero
saw
for
an
Home
ESA.
2. And yeah, absolutely. I saw everything over there. There was a general manager there that I was talking to about that idea of light touch housekeeping, right? And I said, well, how many rooms could a light touch housekeeper do in a day? He says, I've got one housekeeper that can do 40 rooms in a day. You know, where else in the industry can you do 40 rooms in a day and you don't have, you know, on a 2-night transient stay, you've got to strip the bed, you've got to clean the duvets, you've got to do all. And when you get that extended stay business, now about 50% of our occupancy comes from extended stay. That's 11% of our reservations is giving us 50% of our occupancy. Again, filling those shoulder nights, filling the weekends. I mean, if anybody else has an idea how you fill Sunday nights, tell me about it. I'd love to hear about
14
it.
night stays.
Yeah, 2-night stays. Find that extended stay business. Find the 5+, find the 15+. You fill those, and on the transient side of the business, that was just really hard. Not that finding extended stay business is easy, but it sure makes the flow much easier.
Right, especially if you don't need to have as many reservations in order to reach those bottom line numbers.
Absolutely.
And how does that differ then for the service department side of the business and home rentals? Because we're talking two traditional extended stay products, but in your world, the formula's kind of been refined even more.
So I think it's more about the question of what does the traveler want and what does the travel manager want rather than how to fit it into a box. So, you know, I've lived inside the stovepipe of single brand and the democracy of that, right? Yeah. We're more horizontal. So we're not led by where the box needs to be filled. We're led where the travel director wants to place their employees. And this is really a reflection of how social change has occurred, and there's a drive from the employee base to say, I want something different. I don't want to stay in my, you know, where my dad used to stay and grab points. They're looking for a story. They're looking to feel at home in a city. They're looking to stay in something that's fun. And that equally goes for senior management, what you're doing at AKA, as well as the project manager or the intern. They get rewarded in a different way. So our model is to say, look, you want to stay wherever you want to stay, we're going to put you where we are agnostic. If you want to stay in Home 2 or you want to stay in ESA or you want to stay in AKA, we don't care. Because whether it's ours or whether it's our part of our compendium of travel buyers, they just want to go where they want to go, not be convinced to go somewhere else. And that's what's appealing about this broad-based dialogue that's starting to happen between brands that would be traditional and then brands that are changing and then evolution of niche as well. And that's what's changing.
And that's when we start to talk about getting to a mature market. I remember when extended stay was just that one brand by a company that's not represented here. And it's fascinating to me now how as more people got onto it, we started to break down into those categories of different travelers, kind of like the traditional hotel business did. It went into extended stay. Now I'm seeing it in homes and service departments too. What you want, where you want. Piers, I got to ask you about this. How much is being driven by consumer behavior and how much is being driven just by the increased awareness of the sector in general?
I'm no expert, but I'd say 70%.
Oh, you are an expert. It says it in your title.
To me, it's 70% consumer.
Right.
I'd say there's a big push on the connected path and the connected journey in travel. Sebastian Bazin, CEO of Accor, has said 35% of Accor's hotel revenues within the next 5 years will be non-hotel related. That's their big game.
That's pretty significant.
And you know, you look at maybe some other hotel companies, Wyndham, very, very strong on acquisitions in the short-term rental space. That tells you a lot of people are broadening their offering to catch the traveler at each different part of their journey.
Right. Yeah, so MJ, luxury, that you're focusing on that. Why that part of the market, and how does it play into what we're seeing here in terms of the niche product growth?
First, I want to say 5-6 years ago, you wouldn't see hoteliers and service department folks at the same table having this conversation. Service department industry was very immature until about probably 3-4 years ago, where companies like us realized you got to have a digital footprint. It's a 5-dimensional process. It's not, you know, service department category typically had hardworking direct sales teams out there. Yes, you need them for the longer stays, but you can flip the switch on. If we lose a block of 12 apartments from a law firm because they settled out of court 3 days before, we turn that switch on. We didn't do
Do
that
law
kind
firms
of
actually
thing.
do that? I'm confused.
In our
And that they actually settle out of court?
Say
Okay.
it, yeah, well,
Big
it
bucks.
depends.
As long as it goes to the retainer fee.
It depends. And if you write your contract right, you still get a 50% cancellation. But the flexibility and making it easy to do business, whether you're luxury, upscale, or moderate, I think Sean hit the nail on the head when he said it's about the TMC conversation. We were always calling on relocation mobility, and that's a whole separate niche that now hoteliers reach out to, just like service department category folks our core was that, we're now talking to TMCs. And what's the conversation with a travel manager? How can we make it easy to do business with us? What do your travelers need? Suddenly a TMC and that firewall has been broken down between travel management and mobility management. There are some companies who actually do both. One that I just saw last week when I was in London that is smart enough to leverage metrics and say, wait a minute, the travel department knows how to measure spend. A room night spent is a room night spent. I don't care if it's for a 60-day stay, a continuous stay, or a 4-night stay. It doesn't matter. They can measure, so now mobility and travel management, they're sort of communicating. Especially consulting companies, because those are ones many times that are talking to the industry, counseling the industry. All of a sudden somebody like a Deloitte or an Accenture is like, oh wow, let's get to travel management to talk to mobility management, and recruiting talking, and then there's procurement, sitting on top of all of it, trying to measure it all. Where do we fit into the puzzle? We walk in and we say we want your 1%. Luxury, I'm not going to win, the mass marketing game, but boy, when we have a very specific targeted message, we're out there. We have a brand, AVE, that's part of our umbrella. So whenever you see an AKA in an urban market, you're going to see an AV nearby as well. So like some of the other brands represented here in BridgeStreet, we try to lose business in a marketplace only to ourselves.
Right.
So it's just a different conversation, and the industry for service departments has gone from immature to mature.
Right. Deanna, you're probably seeing that over at Skift, where you're an editor. Tell me a little bit about how customer perception and consumer behavioral trends are kind of creating that perfect scenario now to help boost this entire sector.
Yeah, I definitely think, I think the rise and growth and popularity of platforms like Airbnb, HomeAway, VRBO has really sort of introduced to people this concept that, wow, I can definitely get more out of a hotel stay, whether it's or a stay at an extended stay hotel or a service department or things like that. I tend to not cover as much with the TMCs. But I
kept thinking it was that talk show that films celebrities doing things.
Not TMZ. But I do cover a lot about sort of like the general consumer base, and I think from their perspective, it's not like they're thinking, oh, I'm going to stay at an extended stay America, or I'm going to stay at a Home 2 Suites, or I'm going to stay at an AKA, or I'm going to stay at BridgeStreet. They're probably not quite as familiar with those specific categories for what these types of lodgings are, but I think there's like a universal thread among these types of accommodations, which is reflected in what they want. They want like more like a home-like feel. They want all the things that they're able to have at their home, but better, and that comfort and the ease and the accessibility and the flexibility of their stay. And they don't want like to just check into any hotel room and not know where they are. And like what Sean was saying earlier too, they want a story, they want a real experience. And
agreed. And some of the problems with the general hotel industry, I think, is that everyone has wanted to radically shift their design, but they've all kind of went in the same direction, right? So you again have that sameness that's permeating the business. But when it comes to extended stay, homes, and the service department worlds, I feel like we're one step in the light now, right? People are starting to catch on to it, and it really does match that customer behavior trend of wanting to live like a local, as we like to say in this world. So Sean, how is it all coming together in your mind for a company like yours?
Probably look back to 2007, where many of the .com platforms, either social media platforms, and the connectivity really was the genesis before 2008. Many of them were formed in 6, 7. Yeah. And so that population really started to push that 10 years ago. And that the flexibility of work-life play started to really evolve pretty considerably during that period. So we're merely a reflection of that. We're kind of a laggard group. But in some respect, because we lagged, we're actually able to accelerate because you're actually more agile. And so when you connect travel tech and you take life experiences, and tech is actually a lot cheaper than, when you think of the cost of actually delivering it is actually proportionally going down, so it makes it much more accessible to a lot of companies,
so could
which
you
then makes it easy to travel manage.
Right, could you explain a little bit more what you mean by technology? Is it beyond booking? Is it beyond good Wi-Fi in the apartments?
That's just cost of entry.
Right.
I mean, if you don't have functional technology, you're irrelevant. So I don't think anybody can sell anything that's baseline technology. It's really making a business smarter and being a business partner to help the business perform better. Be it at the capital side, be it at the making a travel director, make it easy with a time-impoverished travel manager saying, you can download reports right now and we can help you make your next meeting that much easier. So it's really enhancement of careers, enhancement of connecting how they look good to their population. Because certainly what we're finding with our direct customers is that they are so concerned about hiring and retention. And it's going into, it's part of that ecosystem. It's part of what the job workplace is, how you blend in travel, if there is, and that's part of the retention program.
That's a really keen observation, because we're at the point right now in the lodging cycle.
We're fundamentally at full employment.
That's exactly right. I think 4.5% here in the United States is what the last numbers were. So that's changing the dynamic and making employees more emboldened.
And we're seeing the same thing in Europe.
Right. Yeah.
Same thing.
So they want higher wages. They want higher expectation of benefits. Julie, what are you seeing in terms of that? People wanting to live like they want to live when they're traveling on the road.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, bleisure is a whole word that's been created.
I think this guy made it up here a number of years ago.
That was her report.
Yeah.
We didn't claim that though, and we didn't invent the internet.
Okay.
To be clear.
As long as you say so. So we definitely are seeing this personalization needing to happen in the corporate space in order to retain travelers. It's table stakes now, and some of the most competitive firms, Deloitte, for instance, has a travel experience manager that's just geared toward making sure travelers are happy and having a good time. So
maybe they could hire one of them for Delta for whenever I travel. That'd be great.
Did you get caught up in that?
No.
Well, that's one of the keys. Our founder, Conrad Hilton, coined this phrase of it is our mission to deliver the light and warmth of hospitality. Right. And so when you feel it within our business, it is about the extended stay person. People are still, we as human beings are pack animals, and we still crave to be around other human beings. And so what we've tried to do within our hotels is deliver this idea of the light and warmth of hospitality. So somebody is greeted, and you talk about the technology side of it. We've got 1,000 hotels within the Hilton system that are digital key. They are no longer stopping by the front desk to get the light and warmth of hospitality. If you think about our business from a long time ago, the front desk used to be the delivery method of the light and warmth of hospitality. Everybody came in, and you watch the old movies, and the front desk was that. And then the biggest mistake we made in our industry was putting the computers at the front desk.
Right.
And we changed that job from one of delivering the light and warmth of hospitality to being transactional.
That's right.
And so about 10 years ago, back in my old days, I tried to get rid of the computers at the front desk, and there was going to be a revolt. You couldn't do that. But it's happening now. It's happening with digital key, and that's not going to go backwards. So that technology of understanding what the hard trend is going forward, delivering against it, but then understanding how you want to take your teams and deliver the light and warmth of hospitality. So our extended stay business, we've got this incredible opportunity that they don't have in the transient side, which is we deliver a complimentary breakfast every morning. That means 80% of our guests are coming down to have breakfast. So rather than delivering the light and warmth of hospitality at the front desk, we have to transition our business to delivering the light and warmth of hospitality by delivering that to finding out who are your honors members, who are those people that have stayed with us 60 plus nights, recognize them. Doesn't cost the owner a dime to say, wow, you're an honors member, thank you for staying here. Figure out how you deliver the amenities and benefits in a different way. But you're absolutely right. If you're not doing great Wi-Fi, you're not in the game. You know? And I do know within 5 years, you know, if we've got 1,000 hotels digital key now, everybody's going to have a digital key going forward. Now, how do you deliver against that digital key with better service to keep us as pack animals happy with those relationships that we create?
Which reminds me of a conversation that we had, and I think it's to lead into what you want to say, is the bartender is going to be the most important person within in the hotel. Sorry, Sean.
Yeah. No, it's but our industry generally has been incredibly myopic. We don't look to retail and their highs and lows. We don't look at how to unpack a hotel like the airline has done. You know, why does everything have to be bundled? You know, I think even the gang at Expedia were talking about that recently. You know, we're watching experiences be assembled as opposed to confined to a building, so that you're actually, your hotel bar is getting you connected with the bartender at the pub next door. So you walk away with a story, or you get to watch the game there with the locals, getting connected with how that village works wherever you're staying. You know, there's plenty of villages around New York, and do you know where Hell's Kitchen is? You go home with a story. So it's that kind of assembly, but we don't look at it and go, what's the look to book, like retail, big box going to small box? Why are malls failing, right? We look to ourselves, and it's great to see a broader dialogue actually occurring where we're looking to other places to be relevant. And we all know that technology is in 6-month accelerated intervals, and you either get on it or else it's going to run you over.
Yeah, for sure. But that technology component is so
But it's
critical.
giving data to the travel manager.
Right.
To help them with their employee to say, you know what, if you save us $100, we're going to give you 20 back. But you can stay wherever you want, as long as it's curated and it's validated and it's within our duty of care and peace of mind.
Right. So, Jim, are you focused more on these customer-focused things to help people feel like they're part of that community that they're in at any of the properties that you have? That's kind of a tricky thing. I know your company's in transition, but I'm sure you're thinking about that type of stuff.
Well, we're designing, we're changing the design to have more of a public area, common area that really doesn't exist in very many of our hotels now. We call it a stay play area. So we are having a more of a communal area both inside and outside of the hotel. So we're focusing more on that, again, looking to some of the people who are much more on the cutting edge and the market leaders in those higher segments of extended stay. And so certainly with that, but at our end, it's also much more about just being in the right location. With 628 locations, 629 locations out there, we're close to where we need to be, but we're still only at about 300 plus metro areas. We have another 300 plus we can go into. So with us, it's about being local so they can be close to where they work. You know, our constituency is primarily it's medical, it's IT, it's construction. And it's at a different level than most are here, and in some cases a much longer stay than anyone on the hotel side, nowhere close to the length of stay of the service department side. But so it's kind of shoots the gap in the middle there, and you know, we're trying to design to be relevant and to be updated, and it's really hard to start to come from, you know, where I came from before at Kimpton Hotels to where every hotel was completely bespoke, and we really wanted you to feel like you lived in this neighborhood. I mean, you know, that's not the budget that our traveler has, but we certainly are coming back in with those type of spaces and that type of curation. But it's really, with us, it's all about the full-size refrigerator, the stove, and the full-size, really the full functioning kitchen.
But the thing is, if they are going to be staying there for a long period of time, they're going to want to have more experiences in the community that's surrounding them. And it's up to the hospitality organization to provide that kind of conduit, either through personal recommendations or some sort of technology element. I feel that this is a great opportunity for companies to kind of work around people going to Yelp and some of these other type of sources. Deanna, have you been thinking about that, and how are you seeing that notion expressed in, you know, homes, extended stay, and service departments?
Yeah, definitely. I think programming is an important concept, especially in the extended stay and service department space. I think you're seeing a lot more brands like they're trying to be a lot more communal in terms of the types of experiences that they offer. There's more of an emphasis on like co-living types of concepts or co-working types of concepts kind of embedded into these types of products. But I do think that the programming is really where a lot of brands can kind of differentiate themselves. And like you said too, like sort of offering some on-demand services, like just with the touch of a button from the app, like ordering the groceries that you need, or getting your dry cleaning picked up, and having that ease and accessibility of all the comforts of home, but really sort of all in one.
Right. MJ, are you focused on those issues? 'Cause I would think in the luxury type of environment in particular, that's critical.
We are, and I hear what you're saying. I'd say there's transactional and interactional. They want to transact quickly, so a lot of our reservations are made on the mobile device, more than you would think. I think maybe 50% of our website reservations are now driven through our mobile website. But interactional in that be nimble, be able to, once they're in residence, we try to know a lot about, because the length of stay is longer and it is a residential environment. There are people staying 2 nights, there are people staying 20 nights, there are people staying 6 months. They do want a sense of belonging and a sense of community. So before they even come in, we are engaging with them. We're asking permission, but we're making sure we talk to them over the phone in some way, or at least get to know their likes, their preferences, getting groceries set up the day of arrival and so on, and really curating their stay. We have this program that we implemented called Live It, and we get the neighborhood and create partnerships in that neighborhood to make the neighborhood come alive. But we always have some sort of common area, whether it's a shared work, play space, or lounge, like you'll all see tonight, to bring people together. You can choose to come out of your, little urban oasis and be social, or you can stay and be private. So these kinds of spaces are critical. We find out more from a breakfast host or hostess, or somebody in the lounge from 5 to 11 p.m. I can't tell you how many times somebody who, we had a gentleman who owned a big distillery, and every time he'd come in, we'd make sure we triggered our food and beverage person to have a featured drink with his brand of whiskey. Those are the kinds of things that people just love. And now he brings tons of people in that aren't staying with us that now are using our brand. And those are the kinds of, organic sales activities and marketing activities that you can do. And people walk away on TripAdvisor telling these amazing stories. We do medical tourism a lot. Families and friends supporting people in treatment. And think about the markets we're in: LA, New York, DC, Philadelphia, the biggest amount of teaching hospitals or largest amount of teaching hospitals in the US. These people are in there, whether they're rotating professors, showing a new technology, or somebody in supporting somebody in treatment. Think about those people who are in for 2-3 months. They come in for 2 weeks, maybe they get a diagnosis, they come back in a few weeks for a few months. But how do you get them to want to come back to you when they stayed with you through an OTA, the first time? Well, you better use those OTAs as warm leads and make that first experience really comfortable and really curated. How do you do that when you don't get their email address or their phone number on an OTA? You better figure it out. You better train those front office people to be just ambassadors of the brand, and that's just how you make it come to life.
But what you're also saying, and what Adrian underscored as well, and Piers, you could probably talk to this, is that whole notion that we have to retrain some of those key people to be experienced providers and capture information through organic conversation, and then find a way to turn that back around for customer empowerment and improvement and getting them to come back time and time again.
Sure, I'm seeing a lot of brands that are employing, your local ambassadors with regards to experiences, etc. But also, the apps. Some guests may not want to engage with, staff in the property. So, I think there's been a bit of an underbelly of apps that are beneficial to the service apartment sector, created by Airbnb, ironically, and it's almost as if there's a blurring occurring across all hospitality sectors, but the innovation is coming bottom up instead of top down.
Yeah, I know, Sean, you have a technology program that I think plays into this, empowering people to experience the neighborhoods that they're within in a more seamless way. So you've brought on different partners for that, correct?
Yeah, so we wanted for our supply partners to make it easy for the supply partners to be part of that too, not just BridgeStreet, but the ecosystem of BridgeStreet.com. So we formed relationships with WeWork so that we're able to make it easy to be agile when it comes to meeting space the way you want it. Talking about food, we have a partnership with Blue Apron, so you get your food your way on time as opposed to
Smart idea, like almost obvious, but completely not obvious whatsoever. It's
Well,
so
clearly
cool
I
to
didn't
go
think
over
about it. You know, so
But I love it. Now, not only do you deliver groceries, but I could have people deliver my meal complete. And if I'm on my own, I think that that's a smart, affordable, very homey way to live.
and dish out.
Yeah.
So we're taking a hotel and unpacking it so that you can get it by specialists in your neighborhood, or if you want to do a meeting or you want to be in a hotel, you've got those choices, because we also refer the client base to hotels wherever they want to stay. But also, you mentioned about TripAdvisor, so we just released our relationship with TripAdvisor this morning, and so we wanted peer-to-peer trust, and then equally a curated and validated supply chain, because that's the connection point. Tell me I can stay someplace different, but it's trusted.
Right.
So with Deloitte and LRA by Deloitte on the supply side, and ASAP and Chippa, and then on the demand side, we're rating all of the apartments. So all of them are, will have the OWL and the star rating, so that BridgeStreet is out of the middle of being some other third-party validation model.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be an arbiter.
Don't want to be in the middle of that. And so for our suppliers and for our customers, we want to address the matter of trust, because that has been floating around out there. You need to make it book easy.
Right.
It needs to be unpacked so that the traveler, from a CEO who wants, and we work with AKA Corman, as well as a lot of the extended stay hotels, is if you want to stay there or you want to stay at the other end and you want your own food delivered, you're going to have your own food. You want to have a meeting space somewhere in your location, and this co-mingling, this whole idea of what WeWorks offers, you're gaining a lot of ideas to go home, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think so. So, Adrian, we're in a world of you've got to innovate. You're with a very historic company that's got to be set in its ways all the time. How do you break out of that mindset to try to innovate your products in the extended stay market?
It's actually very fun. I work with a guy by the name of Daniel Burris, and Daniel Burris is a futurist. And I told Daniel when I first started working with him, I said, when I'm done with this gig with Hilton, I want to be a futurist. And he said, why? I said, well, it's really simple, because as a futurist, you can make a prediction and nobody ever holds you accountable to it, right? Yeah. Nobody ever goes backwards and say, hey, you blew that one or you got that one right. But what in Daniel, what he's taught me is what you need to do is you need to look for the hard trend. You figure out what the hard trend is, the absolutely inarguable trend, and then you don't solve for the problems you have today, you solve for that hard trend. So the example that we started with, and I think we're ahead on, is phones, smartphones. Smartphones are not going to go backwards. They're not going to get dumb. We're not going to have stupid phones in the future, that they're going to get smarter and smarter and smarter. Now, what can you do to take advantage of that smartphone? So we started in our organization with digital check-in. Now I think about 20% of our guests are using digital check-in, and then we advanced from digital check-in to digital keys. So of the 20% of the guests who are using digital check-in, 80% of the guests take advantage of the digital key. And now, so what you do is you continually look for those hard trends in what's happening within our industry, and if you identify them, I'll a little side story, but I was looking for hard trends in my own life, and I came up to this conclusion. I have 5-year-old twins at home, and I figured out they're never going to have to learn how to drive a car. Right. Because in 11 years, when they're 16 years old, the way that cars will work, they won't have to, they'll get an iPad graduation of, I know how to program, how to get, and then I took that, well, how does that advantage me? Well, I'm 62. In 20 years, when my family starts to want to take my driver's license away, I will be able to do exactly the same thing and just program it in. How do we take advantage of that in our industry? How do we take advantage? We've got the #1 rated app in the hospitality industry. The Hilton Honors app is #1. And we've got so many fun things that are going on. It's expensive to deliver new things to that app, but there's some really fun things that are being launched now. We can track, like in our big box hotels, we can track where our honors members are, and we can say, okay, well, the general manager's over at this bar, and he's doing free drinks for all Diamond members, and then you can watch the flow of all the people on, from back office to see that everybody's going over there to take advantage of that. So what is the hard trend? How do we take advantage of it? I know you and I were talking earlier, you talk about staying at an extended stay hotel, and you love the space and you love the kitchen, but you never use the kitchen.
Right.
So what can we do within our segment to say, take advantage of that? We have a relationship with Peach Dish. But in all honesty, very few people ever actually ordered from Peach Dish, but they really liked the concept that we had the relationship.
It's like having a pool.
Right.
Yeah,
I was about to say,
exactly.
You have to have a pool. I'm not going to swim in it.
I'm not ever going to swim in it, but you have to have it. So
Not go.
yeah. So what we're doing, for example, with Homewood is we're looking at space. Up until 2 years ago, 85 all of our rooms were 1-bedroom suites. And that was very expensive to build. And so from a development cost against our main competitor, we were much more expensive. So we flipped and we went to 85% studio suites, and we found out that the guest doesn't mind the studio. They want the space, they want the amenities, they want the attributes. They may not even use all of it, but they want to have all that stuff available. So to your point, they want to choose their stay. They want to be, they want to come down to that public area, and they want to decide whether they want to interact with other people. They want the other people around, right. But do I want to interact with them, or do I want to stay over here, and do I want to get together, do my app or do my thing? But giving them choice, and I think that's a hard trend that's never going to go away. That is something that choice and flexibility in what we're doing, and we will see over the long run that, especially when you launch a brand like Home2, you start it with cookie cutter, but eventually you're going to get to, okay, the millennials have told us very clearly that they want to know that the hotel reflects the community to which they are sleeping in that night. How do we get to that? That's a hard trend that's not going to change also. So how can we get to that, allow that flexibility in everything that we do?
Julie, he's been talking hard trends. How do you tell the difference between a hospitality fad and a real verifiable trend?
Am I the one to answer that question? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I thought I put you on the spot because I have no idea how to answer it, so I'm throwing it to you.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to. When I'm thinking about it, I look at the intersection of everything that's happening.
Right.
I think it's a fad if it involves, just a couple groups of players. But when you look at the momentum that's going on in the hospitality industry right now, I don't think you can say that any of this is a fad, because there's so many players involved in it. It just seems to be just moving forward in a very particular way. But I could be totally wrong, so.
That's all right, just call yourself a futurist. No one will care. All right, so, wrapping up here, we've been talking for a long time now. I thought this was going to be short, but you guys are also interesting and fascinating. Some final thoughts. Time for a shameless plug if you'd like. Jim, take it away.
Well, we're about to start franchising, and we're really looking forward to the new designs that we're coming up with. We have a tremendous amount of our guests actually are on per diems, and they actually like to double up because they kind of get allotted a certain amount. You get this amount to travel, and they'll look at each other and say, I don't mind sleeping here if you don't mind sleeping here. So we're designing some really unique double queen rooms that allow them to have their own compartment, but it's still one room. So that's something we're very excited about, and we're looking forward to getting into the third-party business.
Excellent. Deanna?
Yeah, just at Skift, I'm always looking for trend lines, so I'm excited to see where the space evolves, how things continue to grow, and to sort of see more innovation from all the different brands and players that we have.
Terrific. MJ, final thought?
Final thought, AKA Hotel Residences. We have an incredibly architecturally visionary owner, operator, Larry Corman, and I would say that we don't just curate the stay, he makes each property have the mojo of that neighborhood. So the design is the same but different, and you got to live it to feel it, and it's really a different experience.
Live it to feel it. Piers?
Yeah, really excited about the Service Department Summit, which takes place tomorrow. Key for me really is we're releasing a sentiment report, which really will highlight a lot of what's been discussed.
Could you give us a little taste of what to expect? Because by the time this comes out, the event will already be public.
Yeah, I suppose the investment interest, which everybody around the
right.
table here thrives off, is growing, which is a good sign.
Yeah, excellent. Adrian?
Well, we focus on three things every day, every minute, every day. It's driving revenue, enhancing loyalty, and maximizing profitability. And so what we want to do with Homewood and Home2 is look at everything that we're doing, how we're doing it, Will it drive more revenue into your hotel? Will it maximize loyalty on two fronts, the loyalty of the end user, the guest, and the loyalty of the owner? And we found that the loyalty of the owner is best generated by maximizing profitability. So we look at everything that we're doing, how much of that can we get to fall to the bottom line so the owner takes that to the bank, so the next time they go out to build an extended stay hotel, or any hotel for that matter, that we are their brand of default. We think about that all the time. If we can deliver against that, we've got it made.
Excellent. Julie?
I'm going to plug Business Travel News, Travel Procurement, and The Beat, which is our travel technology and distribution newsletter. We're constantly talking to travel management companies, travel managers, and trying to figure out what their concerns are. We have a lot of great original research, like our Traveler Happiness Index, which looks at how well travel managers are doing meeting the happiness needs of their travelers. Pretty self-explanatory, but that's something that it's an ongoing project that's going to sit on our website. So we're just going to be getting more and more data in that area. So check us out.
Sean, final thoughts?
We're hoping that our business inspires connection. We want to level it. We want to inspire connection with our sales force to go and talk to travel managers. We want to inspire connection with our supply partners so that we can put you in a place that you connect with legitimate, real people that make decisions. And then we want to validate it with TripAdvisor on one end and Deloitte LRA on the other. So it brings this curated legitimacy to our sector that's just dynamic. So it's really a brilliant time to have us all sitting around a table.
Yeah, it sure is. And be sure to check out BridgeStreet.com so you could book a service apartment, home, or extended stay facility for sure. I think what this really comes down to is a few different things happening at once. We've got a confluence of changing customer behavior, a rise in technology, and a deeper understanding of what the extended stay experience could be all about from both the customer side and the ownership side, right? And together, they're all kind of playing together into this amazing, perfect storm that I think we're seeing rising right now. That makes it very appealing, not just to folks that want to stay there, or not just the operators, but the ownership community as well. It's an industry that's different, dynamic, and brings a lot of change to what you think is the typical hospitality industry. If you have an apartment, you don't need to do the entire building. You just use key components of what we've been talking about here today as part of an overall strategy. I think the future is bright for extended stay homes and serviced apartments, and I look forward to following it as time goes on. And you guys could follow it too by watching Here to Stay TV. And I want to thank you for watching. My name is Glenn Haussman, and we'll see you next time.